Do I have sound?
I can hear you.
Oh, wow. What do you know? It works.
I'm not looking at you at the moment. Oh, there you are. Yeah, your little doodad is open as well.
Yeah, I am going to take the video off because I am eating dinner.
Understood.
One quick question. I know we're gonna just do the Q&A. When we get to the end of the sessions, are we gonna open it up for people who want to ask questions?
Absolutely.
Okay. With that, I'm gonna say have it. Hey, Aaron.
Aaron, can you say something again so we can hear if you're working?
Yeah, can you hear me?
Not really. You're really soft.
Okay, having an audio issue here.
But I like your astronaut headset.
Can you hear us, Aaron? I see you're switching. I don't hear.
Anything?
Go ahead. Test one more time.
Can you hear me now?
There you go. Much better.
Okay, great. Switched headphones. I'm using the Bluetooth headphones, which can be a little. They can fade in and out sometimes. So let me know if I start to get quieter.
Okay. Actually, you're maybe now you're a little too loud. So I don't know if it's adjustable.
Yeah, I think I can see what I can do about that.
Oh, that was a lot better right there. I don't know what you did.
Okay, I just won't move from right
Okay. Maybe it was me. Maybe I just turned it. I got your slides, but I made you a co-host so that you can present and move them yourself so that you can follow.
Okay, great. Yeah, no, I figured you might want to put them up on the website after this for people to look at.
I may also I put them into a shareable folder temporarily so I can share that during the presentation.
Great.
Well, we're still a little early, so we're good. I take it you're a Ward 4 resident?
I am, yes.
The houses in the background kind of give it away.
You can tell just from the alley view. That's really impressive.
I mean, I shouldn't make that assumption, but they look like, the row house types that you would see with the little. They were probably sleeping. I'll let Kent talk. They were probably sleeping porches at one time that got filled in.
Yeah. I'm in one of those right now. Yeah, I'm in 4B, just a little north of Kennedy Street and a little bit west of North Capitol.
Gotcha.
And I'm actually going to try sharing this just to make sure that this part's going to work.
Yeah, please. Looks great.
Okay.
Yeah. Now I see, and in this one, I'm always curious. What I see are the slides on one side, and then yourself, myself, and Mr. Bass below. Is that kind of what you see?
Yeah, I mean, I can also see my like my next slide. So I want to make sure that that's not showing up for other people as well.
I can't see that. Nope.
Okay, great.
Take that off right now.
I am seeing a few people have called in, so we might need to be a little descriptive in the presentations if you can.
I will do my best. It's going to be a fairly technical presentation.
I understand. As you're joining us, folks, we'll be getting started shortly after 7. I'm going to share a link that hopefully will take you to the presentation.
And there isn't anything else on the agenda, right?
Nope, it's just you tonight.
Great, great. And do you have a an end time that I should be aiming for?
Not particularly. I mean, I've seen that you don't have that many slides, so I'm assuming you're going to get through this, in a reasonable amount of time. And
Well,
then we'll let the questions dictate how long we go.
yeah, I'll do my best. The plans are actually not in the slides. I was going to run through the slides and then flip over and actually walk through the plans.
Oh, okay.
So, it really is going to depend on how much time we spend on Q&A. And as we discussed last night, I think we're going to split the Q&A. So we're going to do Park and Park first and handle questions on that, and then go on and walk through the Kenyon plans and then do questions and feedback on Kenyon separately.
Okay.
But I would also say, as long as we record this, if anyone has to drop or has a conflict tonight, we can share that out later so that they all get an opportunity.
Yeah.
Oh, I see we have a queue. I would also point out to those in the audience right now that there is a Q&A function. So if you have a question that you want to ask, you can just type it in for now. And then when we move to after the presentation, we'll take direct questions from the audience if you don't want to type them up. Okay, I would say that in the interest of everyone's time that we go ahead and get started. So Commissioner Bass, did you want to welcome everyone or?
Well, I
Maybe-
certainly can.
Eating.
I guess I'll start by saying I'm pleased to see so many people joining us tonight. I expect others will be joining us shortly. This has been a long time coming. I think that it's exciting to see the updates for Park Place and Water and be able to ask those questions. And it's also great to see some of the preliminary ideas for, I'd say, Kenyon further south, which are very early in the planning stage. So a lot of the feedback that we will get there can be incorporated into future discussions. I will say that Park Place and Water we've been talking about for quite some time. Kenyon is relatively new. And so it's much further, it has much more time to sort things out. So I'd like people to keep that in mind. With that, I don't need to natter on any longer. So Michael and Aaron, I'll hand it back over to you.
So just one point, Mr. Goldbeck, we are hearing that there is a little feedback sometimes, and I notice, I don't know if it depends on where your head is positioned or how it's positioned, but just, I'll warn you, make a hand signal if you're coming through strangely. The Q&A function is open. I will resend out a link to a portion of the presentation so that you all can follow along at home if you choose. We will open it up to questions directly from the audience later on. But if you want to put things in the Q&A, you can do that, and then we'll go from there. But please take it away, Aaron.
Well, thank you everybody for coming out this evening. My name is Aaron Goldbeck. I'm a planner at DDOT. My audio, I'm guessing, is a little up right now. See what I can do to adjust that. And also, just as a point of order, I'm going to be doing this on one screen, so I'm going to be having a hard time seeing the chat and seeing the Zoom. So feel free to yell at me if there's anything I'm missing there. I'm going to go ahead and share my presentation. Hopefully everybody can see that now. And what we are, here to discuss, of course, are the second phase of the Crosstown project. Crosstown project is implementing protected bike lanes and other improvements, so in the area between Northwest and Northeast DC. To create a robust east-west connection, and in this case, improved north-south connection. So let's get into it. What we will be looking at this evening, I'm going to give you a brief history of this project and an overview. And then I'm going to give a quick update on Water, which is pretty, in terms of the plan, done. And then we're going to walk through the Park Place and Park Road plans. We'll do Q&A and feedback on those plans, and then we'll go through the Kenyon plans, and we'll do Q&A and feedback on the Kenyon plans. I'll probably say this again, but just to keep in mind, Water is basically done. In our parlance, it's at 90% design, so we're just tightening up the last few very small details on those plans. Park Place and Park Road are like 2/3 of the way done. So we've still got room to adjust things, but they're pretty much set, and they're pretty much going to wind up looking the way that I'm going to show you this evening. Kenyon is at the earliest stage of development. It's at 30% or the concept phase, so there's a lot of room for things to change with that. We're showing you our very first draft. It's very early, and it's because we really value your input and your feedback, and we look forward to hearing what you think. So the area that we're talking about all together, I wanted to put this map in front of people so you get the full context.
Aaron, I'm sorry, I'm going to stop you because a lot of people are complaining about the way you're coming through on the microphone. Is it possible to do without the earphones, or are you just in a place that's not possible?
Hey, can you hear me now? Better? Worse?
Give it a second. Try now.
Does that sound any better, or is that worse?
Is it possible for you to lower your volume a little? Maybe it's too high. Just try it a tad.
How about that?
No.
It might be your earpiece. Do you have it in?
No, he took it out. He took that out.
Yeah, now I'm just going off the laptop speakers and microphone.
On the, okay, real quick, sorry. If on the left-hand side where you see the mute button, there's a little up arrow. All right, and then when you get the up arrow, you can do audio settings. And then in audio settings under microphone, you'll see volume control. Can you take that down and turn off the automatically adjust maybe? Did you find all that?
I did, yes. Just a second.
And keep speaking, because that sounded really good right there, but
Okay, is that better?
Oh, now it's perfect.
A lot better.
Okay, I took the volume down a bit.
yeah, that's much better. Sorry, Aaron, thank you.
Okay, no, thank you. Sorry about that. I think we can blame the district government for this laptop they gave me, not being up to remote presentation standard. Okay, and please tell me if the audio starts to get bad again for whatever reason.
Okay.
So you've now all had some time to look at this map, which shows, the existing protected bike lane network coming north on 5th and running east-west on Irving and onto Kenyon there. That Kenyon, Irving, east-west protected bike lane was the first phase of the crosstown project. What we're proposing, this evening is to enhance the north-south bike lanes with a northbound protected bike lane on Warder and a southbound protected bike lane on Park, and to continue the east-west connection along Kenyon all the way to 11th Street. So you can see how it really helps to fill in this network that we're building of protected bike lanes. I also wanted to highlight Irving and Columbia here because I've gotten a lot of questions as to why Irving and Columbia are not being considered for the bike lanes. And there's several reasons for that. DDOT has other plans for those roads. Through our sort of high level planning processes, we've determined that Irving and Columbia are best suited for bus traffic and freight traffic. And that's, obvious, they've already got the bus lanes on them. So projects are coming to optimize those streets for carrying transit and freight that would not really be compatible with bike lanes. If we tried to combine protected bike lanes with like a bus priority lane, it really, it gets very challenging to combine both uses. So that's why we're looking at Kenyon for the protected bike lane for the east-west connection. And it is because the roads to the south, Irving and Columbia, we've got other plans for those roads. And then, looking north, there are not streets that go all the way through, because the eventual goal is to take the east-west connection all the way to 14th Street. This project is only going to get it to 11th Street. So that's sort of the broad high-level context of what DDOT is thinking about. So keep that in mind. We'll return to this map later. Okay. And this is another view of the same area from Move DC, which is our master plan. I highlighted the roads we're going to be looking at this evening in detail. So to further establish the context here, who is behind this project? It's DDOT, the District Department of Transportation. It's our mission to equitably deliver a safe, sustainable, and reliable multimodal transportation network for all of the residents and visitors of the District of Columbia. And once again, my name is Aaron Goldbeck, and I am a planner in the Sustainable Transportation Branch. So what we're talking about this evening: protected bike lanes, new street trees on Warder and Park Place, new parking on Park Place and Park Road, and where we're doing these projects: Park Place, Park Road, Warder Street, Kenyon Street. The when is going to be over the next 2 years, though the when actually goes all the way back to 2014 if we count from the beginning of this whole effort. So why are we doing this? It's because of the residents of the District of Columbia who elected leaders who prioritize projects like this. This is from the mayor's budget. Mayor Muriel Bowser thinks it's important for us to expand the protected bike lane network. And she gave us a lot of money to do that. So we're working on that. We're an executive branch agency. So this is a sort of continuation of the mayor's agenda that she ran on and won on. And of course, the budget is approved by council. So, the council of the District of Columbia, we think, also stands behind this work. So beyond that, we think that projects like this are very important to help reduce emissions. This is from the EPA. We can see that the largest producer of greenhouse gases is from transportation. And, the largest section of that is from, gas burning cars. So we are doing everything we can to provide alternatives so that people have better options to move around, which we think is very important for the climate. And finally, protected bike lanes are the safest way we can move people around without cars on our roads. So we think this will have a net benefit to safety for vulnerable road users, bicyclists, pedestrians, and so on. So that's the why. So how did we get here? It started back in 2014 with the Move DC update. Move DC is the master plan for what DDOT hopes to do in the future with all the streets and sidewalks in the District of Columbia. That recommended that we look very closely at this particular area. So we did that in 2016 with the Crosstown Multimodal Transportation Study. And all of these projects we're talking about this evening were recommended in that 2016 study, which was a real deep dive. There's a lot of public meetings. There's a lot of outreach as part of that. In 2017 through 2019, we did the first phase, which was the two-way protected bike lane on Irving. And now we're moving on to the second phase, which is these protected bike lanes on Park, Warder, and Kenyon that we're talking about this evening. And we hope to be done with all this. I put next year on here optimistically. I suspect it'll take a little bit longer than that because things always do. But this is sort of the broad timeline of this project. It's been in the works for a long, long time. So a quick update on Warder, which we've already discussed extensively in these meetings over the last year. There was an NOI published. It closed back in August. Comments were very supportive, and the feedback we got was very, very good. So thanks to everybody who commented on that. We are hoping to begin this work for Warder in late fall. That was the most precise I could get the construction team to get. So I'm going to say, late October, early November. I will get a more precise update from them as soon as possible to pass on to the ANC. They do want to begin excavating the tree pits. They want to do this in such a way that it'll minimize the amount of disruption. So sort of going one block at a time rather than trying to do all of them at the same time throughout the whole corridor is the approach they want to take to minimize the disruption. Trees will be planted in April. And bike lane implementation with the restriping and the addition of the bollards and flex posts and concrete barriers and such. That will also happen in the spring. This is a little bit of a vague timeline for Warder. I was hoping to get more detail for this meeting. I will provide that as soon as I get it from the construction folks. So looking now at sort of an overview of what else we have to discuss this evening, I'm going to show you the plans in a moment for the parking protected bike lanes that we are going to put onto Park Place. We're also going to be adding a lane of parking on Park Place. We are going to be making Park Road a one-way westbound. This slide is incorrect, my apologies. It's going to go west with parking along the south side of the street. And we are also looking at a parking protected bike lane in Kenyon northwest. All of this will lead to a net parking gain in the neighborhood. And when I'm throwing around these terms, parking protected bike lane, counterflow bike lane, what do these mean? I want to show you some pictures, some examples. So on the left there, you can see a great example of a parking protected bike lane. It has 2 lanes for cyclists to go in both directions, and it is separated from moving cars by parked cars. And then there's a buffer for people who are getting out of those parked cars. There's 3 feet there for them to open their car door safely and step out and walk without having to worry about whacking a bicyclist with their car door. And then I wanted to show an example of a counterflow bike lane. And this is what we are looking at for Park Road as part of that one-way conversion. So you can see an example here from 11th Street Northwest. That's what that's going to look like. It's going to allow for 2-way bicycle traffic on the road while only having 1-way car traffic. So nothing we haven't done elsewhere in the district. And then this takes us back to the map just to sort of refresh our memories of this. It's going to be those parking protected bike lanes on Kenyon, Warder, and Park Place. It's going to be that counterflow bike lane and the one-way conversion on Park Road going westbound. And we are going to be leaving Irving and Columbia alone for future transit, bus-related projects, which will be coming, in the next several years. So this is my contact information. This is all going to be, I believe, posted on the website and has all been linked. So if you have thoughts, please do send them my way. It would help me out if you put Crosstown Phase 2 or the street name and the subject line of your email, and that'll make it easy for me to keep track of folks' comments. So that is my slides. At this time, we're going to switch over and begin looking at the plans for Park Place and Park Road, which hopefully you should be able to see now. Can you see them? Still looking at okay, hang on.
You might want to make it a little bit larger for folks.
Oh, but you could see the plans.
Yes.
They're just small. Okay, great. Okay, that we can do. Yes, we will zoom in on that. Okay. So I'm going to begin here on Park Place. We are going to start here at the intersection of Park Place and Kenyon. So this is the southern extent of the project as it is conceived now. So we're going to be sort of going north against the flow of traffic. Now this map is a little bit confusing because north is going to be to your right-hand side on the right side of the screen. South is on the left side. West is at the top of the screen. East is at the bottom. So please bear that in mind. So this is going to be connecting to our existing two-way cycle track on Kenyon that runs east-west. And we expect, the majority, if not all of the bicycle traffic to turn either left or right and proceed either, eastbound or westbound when they reach this point. Moving north, we can see the first of one of our new street trees that we're proposing here for this block. We'll be seeing 9 more of those as we proceed north. And you can see the protected bike lane here is actually not parking protected. It's protected by precast concrete barriers and flex posts. Moving to the next block, we see how the parking begins here once you get north of Luray Place. This is a new parking lane on the east side of Park Place. So it'll be, the parking will be on the left side of the street as you're heading southbound down Park Place. You can see here where we are also doing curb bump outs and crosswalks. This is all new stuff. They're not crosswalks this time on Park Place because there's nowhere to cross to. You may notice that the bike lane does this very interesting sort of slalom here. You can see where the bike lane curves around, and it's to avoid this grate, which is not safe to bicycle over at this time. I expect that this is not going to be the case in the final design. We're working on switching out those grates like right now, so we don't have to worry about this later as we're implementing the rest of the project. So I anticipate that when I come back with the 90% plans for this segment, this is going to be straight and nice, and you're going to be able to bike over those grates without issue. So we are working on that already. That comment has already been made by every single person at DDOT who's looked at these plans, because that does look kind of weird. So we are going to not do that. We're going to make that a nice straight bike lane. So this here is the intersection of Park Place and Park Road. So you can see that one-way westbound lane there stretching up towards the top of your screen. You can see the counterflow bike lane I mentioned before coming and joining up with the Park Place protected bike lane. So that's how that's going to look. We're going to see the rest of Park Road in a moment. We're going to stay on Park Place for the time being. So proceeding northbound, we have additional parking and additional crosswalks here at Manor. Proceeding north, similar configuration. When we reach Newton, we get 2 crosswalks and new curb bump outs as well. The bike lane proceeds with the parking protection further north. And then we see the same configuration here at Otis, parking protected on the east side, curb bump outs on the west side, crosswalks, more tree pits. We're up to tree pit number 5 here. And the tree pit locations are somewhat flexible at this stage of design. So if there are tree pits going in places where there are already sufficient number of trees, and we would prefer the trees to be elsewhere, just let me know and we can scoot those around. We've got Princeton Place here with another new crosswalk proceeding northbound. And then we are now at the limits of ANC 1A, where we reach the intersection of Park Place and Park Place, where we are really trying to make this intersection much safer by adjusting, the crossing here and adding these new crosswalks, of course. So let's keep this in mind. I'm going to show you the Park Road plans as well, and then we're going to open it up for questions, answers, and feedback. So just bear with me while I get Park Road queued up. So this is just how it's going to proceed north through ANC 4C. This is actually going to go all the way to Grant Circle. So I'll just show you that sort of from a more zoomed out view, because it is really the same, configuration. It reaches Grant Circle here. We're very excited about, connects up the existing bike lanes on Grant Circle. Okay, so this now we are looking at Georgia Avenue and Park Road. And to make things extra challenging for you folks following along at home, we've now switched the orientation of the map. And now north is at the top, south is at the bottom, east, west, as normal. So we will be proceeding eastbound down Park Road. So we have totally shifted our orientation here. So thank you for bearing with us on that. So you can see the counterflow bike lane. You can see the new parking, which has been added to the south side of Park Road. And you can see how Park Road is now one-way westbound. And this condition, proceeds through the entire length of the segment. We're very cognizant of the fact that Park Morton is going to be subject to redevelopment soon. So this design has been done with that in mind, especially with this alley becoming a street in the future. And then you can see the curve in Park Road here as it crosses Warder. This is our sort of first glance at what the Warder Park Road intersection is going to look like. Counterflow bike lane continues to the east, and there you have it. So that is actually where it intersects with the Park Place plans again that we looked at a moment ago. For anyone who's curious what these new trees are going to look like, this is our technical drawing of the tree pit. So the tree pits are going to be adjacent to the sidewalk. They're actually going to be in the roadway, but they're going to have a curb around them. And the last time I gave this presentation, I was asked if these were going to be the sort of rain garden design that sits 2 to 3 feet below the grade of the sidewalk. These are going to be at grade. We're not going to be digging a big hole for stuff to collect in and for people to wander into. This is going to be a totally at grade tree that is going to be next to the sidewalk in the roadway itself. So hopefully that is clear from these drawings. All right, I am just going to back this up to the beginning, and I'm showing you all the extremely unvarnished, highly technical plan set. So if it is a little bit challenging to read, I apologize for that. And at this point, let's open it up for questions and feedback on the plans. I didn't go through this very quickly, so if there's anything you'd like me to cover once again, I would be happy to.
Well, since I see Rashida raised her hand, why don't we start with her and then we'll go into some of these written ones.
Michael, go ahead, because you might have general questions. I have very specific questions.
Okay. Well, some of these are very specific as well. So maybe you should just go ahead.
Okay, thank you so much, Aaron, for that presentation. And I really like how you provided an overview of the project, because so many people, in the community and likely on this webinar do not have that background. So I appreciate you doing that. I have one question. I have a few questions, but I want to start with a question related to Park Place. And just so I'm clear, so the design concept that we're looking at has a combination of the bike lanes and the additional parking and a walkway. Is that what we're looking at?
So there's not so in terms of a walkway, I want to clarify that a little bit. We looked at some early concept designs a few months ago that had sort of a mixed use trail component. We ended up not going that way because we honestly didn't believe it could be safely implemented. So the walkway component here, there is going to be this generous buffer between the bike lane and the parking lane on Park Place. And then there's going to be space protected with these flex posts for people to walk and to reach the crosswalk and then cross the street. So in terms of a walkway, that's what's provided in this design. But it's not really intended for people to use like a sidewalk. It's more of this is how you get out of your car and get across the street.
I see. Okay. And then safely cross over to that intersection. Thank you for that. And so for the additional parking, how many parking spaces are we looking at?
So I don't have a final number on that yet. It's a fairly significant amount. I'm going to have to come back with that because we're still tweaking this a little bit, and I don't want to throw out a number that's wrong, but it's quite a bit.
Okay, and I appreciate you so much for creating that ad. And I have also a question about how cyclists merge from Park Place and where you see that kind of, that swervy intersection that you were walking us through earlier. How would they come to that intersection to connect to Kenyon if they wanted to connect to Kenyon?
And by the way, that was a question in the, that was going to be
In
my
the
first
chat.
question in the chat. So yes, to go back down to Park Place and Kenyon and see how do they make that transition? I know you're kind of open on how that gets
Yes.
done.
So we're, just to make sure I understand, we're looking at how you get from Park Place to the existing
Correct.
two-way cycle
Mhm.
track here. Yeah, so there is going to be some further work that's going to need to be done on the traffic signals and how the traffic signals are going to facilitate that maneuver. We haven't done that work yet because we need to sort of get this piece baked first. So I'm going to come back on these plans again when they're at 90%, and I'm going to have a lot more detail on those kind of fine grain questions. So I can only answer that fairly generally now, but we're providing striping through the intersection to direct cyclists and to facilitate that turning either east or west. So that's about all I can say right now. Am I addressing the question?
I think it's a great update and where you are now, but I would assume that people would want to come onto Park Place to get through Kenyon to access Georgia Avenue safely. So I know, you're not at that stage as of yet, but that would, and just in looking at the designs, that was one of the things that came to my mind, is how they would safely cross onto that intersection.
Got it.
And have you talked about the bottleneck at the intersection of where Irving Street merges onto Kenyon? Because a lot of folks at the 400 block expressed a lot of concerns, and I know that creating that left-hand lane and folks being able to merge over kind of narrows down the street to reduce that bottleneck that starts at the 400 block of Kenyon. But can you kind of touch on that a little bit so that folks can understand?
I want to put a pin in that and come back to it when I show the Kenyon concept plans, because I think that's
Okay.
going to make it easier to understand.
Sure.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, so I'm going to move us on again to some of the written stuff. There was a request to go back to Park Place at Princeton Place, which is sort of at the northern end near Commissioner Base's SMD, or in Commissioner Base's SMD.
Right here?
Yeah, can you just zoom in a little bit so that people can just get a good look at that just before we, and then I'll look to see what the next. There is a general question here about the trees and the curb bump outs and why we're what those are and what we're installing those. I'll start off though by saying that Warder and Park Place do not have a lot of street trees. That is one of the hottest areas in the city. It routinely ranks up there on our warm days as like well over 100 degrees, and it shows up on maps as being one of the hotter areas of the city. So the ANC certainly pushed quite a bit to get DDOT to add some more trees to this general area, and that this has been the solution to do that. But I'll let others, if there's more on that subject, Aaron or Commissioner Base, I know this was big on your list.
And I would like to also ask if the tree installation also comes with sidewalk improvement.
It does, yes. Yeah.
Well, but that's also with a caveat, right? This is not a streetscape project, it's a bike lane project. So the tree pit itself may improve the sidewalk around it, but the sidewalks in total aren't being redone because that would involve realignment of sewers and realignment of underground utilities and electrical and streetlights. So just also keep that in mind.
Yeah, and yes, I definitely was not talking about a major streetscape project, but more or less talking about minor improvements that we see with the cracks on the sidewalk and so forth.
Great. And then Tatiana asked what the travel lane widths generally are going to be.
We're looking at 11-foot travel lane widths, I believe. I don't know if we actually show that in this plan set or if that's something that comes in the 90% plan set, but they're going to be standard for the city, you know, to facilitate, you know, fire EMS traffic, but to also have a, you know, traffic calming effect. We don't want to build them too wide so that people are induced to speed, but we don't want to make them so narrow that they're not useful for larger emergency vehicles. So that's what we're aiming for here.
There was a question, I don't know if you have the plans. Do you have the plans for Warder handy there or no?
I do, yes.
So there was a question about 3577 to see if the curb cut going into this particular property is in your plan.
3577. Let's take a look.
3577. I don't know if you can get that specific on your.
You know, not in this set, but if you gave me a cross street, we could find it pretty quickly.
It's directly across from the entrance to the Parkview School.
Okay.
So it's going to be Warder between Newton and Otis.
Yeah. So it looks like the only curb cut we're showing here is the alley.
Yeah, and that is flawed in that there is a 5-unit apartment building that has a curb cut for their parking.
Okay, that is great to know. We will we'll take a look at that.
Okay. Now this is why we have these meetings.
Yeah.
One of the questions was, will this widen any of the sidewalks? The quick answer to that is no. Those unfortunately costs significantly more than the budget that we have for the project because you have to move sewer systems and drain lines and all these other infrastructure pieces. But so we will not be expanding any sidewalks with this project.
Yeah, that is correct.
Still kind of geeking through here. Hold on. I don't know. An anonymous attendee, are we saying that the park loses a sidewalk to gain a bike lane? We're not removing any sidewalks. In fact, there's no major infrastructure change other than the inclusion of the tree pits. Another question was those grates, are those stormwater?
They are, yes.
So that's how the runoff from rain gets out of the neighborhood.
Yeah.
So the area south of Kenyon is not shown. Do you want to talk about on Park Place, south of Kenyon? Do you want to talk about the project boundaries?
Yeah, so we have a limit on this project where the furthest south that we've been looking at is this intersection of Kenyon and Park Place. We have not looked at doing anything further south. Issues further south have been raised, and when I've brought those up to the engineering team, they've said by reducing the number of lanes in Park Place, by reducing the speeds on Park Place, they really believe that it's going to have a traffic calming effect sort of downstream south of Kenyon. But I've been hearing that there is a lot of concern in the community about unsafe conditions on Park Place south of the extent of this project. So I'm going to see what I can do to get us to take a look at Park Place further south and see what kind of safety improvements we can make, around the Wangari Gardens area.
Mhm.
We do hear that is a pressing concern. I agree. So the limits of the project are put in place to keep us sort of, in budget and keep us from spending a million years, sort of doing a project that ends up all over the city. So I might lose this fight, but this is something that I'm interested in taking on myself. See what we can do for at least that one block on Park Place further south.
Yeah, and Aaron, just for background, there is a TSI for that intersection for Irving and Park. And I know that you're coordinating with the Vision Zero team. You know, coordination may not mean an expansion of this project, and we understand that. But as we see the findings of that study, you know, we really pushed for stronger coordination because, you know, we really wanted to make sure that the goals of Vision Zero is really implemented. And I know that that's also part of this project as well. So, you know, South Side to me means Irving Street on up through Michigan. And, you know, we've seen some NOIs, you know, for that area, but definitely could have some stronger coordination of whatever we're trying to achieve for Park Place.
One of the questions from Garrett is about what's the limitation on the addition of tree pits? I know the answer to this, but he wants to make sure that is it because of parking spaces, or what limits us on the number of tree pits? But I'll take that, Aaron.
Well, I hate to put it this way, but it's really a budget question. We tried to max out the number of trees we could plant given the funding constraints that we have. So we ended up finding that we could do, 10 on Warder, 10 on Park Place. Just it's expensive to excavate. It's expensive to then, add in the soil and do the landscaping and do the concrete work for the curbs. So it's really a budgetary constraint more than it is anything else.
Yes. And I
What's
should
the
add,
number of tree pits that this design called for?
20 altogether, 10 on Park Place, 10 on Warder. And the trees on Warder are pretty set at this point. The trees on Park Place, if folks want to move those around, let me know, because we still got time to do that.
Yeah, the limitation being, again, any of that underground infrastructure.
Right, yeah, and that's why they wound up in a lot of places they are. This is where we knew we could do it without hitting, a gas line or an electric line or sewer line or something like that.
Yeah. Harry is reminding us that there actually might be more than one curb cut for a driveway across from the school. So Commissioner Bass and Aaron, we may want to just get up there and put some eyes on that as well.
Yeah, but when I look at Google Maps, I think there's only the one. There was one with the structure that was recently redeveloped into Whitney Close Mews, and that curb cut is supposed to go away. But more generally, I would say it would be helpful to walk this entire length and just make sure that all the curb cuts are reflected in the plans, regardless of where DDOT thinks or doesn't think they are.
Audra Grant wanted to know how many parking spaces are coming off of Warder Street and where they are located. And I think your answer to that is that you're still double checking on the exact specifics.
So for Warder Street, that was all in the NOI we published.
Yeah.
And it actually has it, block by block. It's only a handful. I don't have that in front of me. But I just would refer you back to the NOI to check that out, and you can see in a very granular way.
And Ms. Grant, we can get that to you. I know I have your email, so we'll get that. And Ms. Parker, I guess, although I didn't see that question, also asking about the parking on Warder. Again, for the most part, the parking on Warder is not affected by the bike lanes. I do want to go back, because there have been some general comments about, why is the ANC moving forward with this? You're not changing anything that's affecting my life. And we are still having some issues with the existing bike lane and the way that integrates into Kenyon, although we're going to talk about that in a minute. But I mean, any general thoughts about, I think you already kind of said why we're moving this forward, but do you want to talk more on that?
Well, I guess generally speaking, what the district has been charged with by the mayor and the council is building a network of, safe, high quality bike lanes throughout the city. And this is one of the very few places where we can build a east-west connection, just because of the geography of the District of Columbia. It works out this way. And, you know, we heard in the crosstown multimodal study that there was a real desire for upgrading the existing bike lanes on Park Place and Warder. You know, so that's why we're pursuing these projects. It's sort of part of both, you know, requests from the immediate community that came out of that public engagement process, but also how we connect the various neighborhoods across the city.
I'm seeing that we do have some hands coming up, and I do want to give people an opportunity to talk in. But just real quick, because we also need to move on to Kenyon.
Yes.
Are we on Park Road? Anything beyond Georgia Avenue?
No, that one way to Georgia Avenue.
Okay. And Garrett asked about the spacing beside the bollards on Park Place that gives a little bit of a walkway. You know, the concern is that the bollards are closer to the bike lane than they are to the cars. And is there a way to kind of reverse that to give a little more walking space or a little more breathing room between the bollards and the bike lane?
Yeah, so I guess zooming in on that, you do see that the bollards are in line with the precast concrete. I suspect that we probably don't have a ton of room to maneuver those around because we were trying to create this 3-foot buffer and sort of pedestrian aisle here. And I know that like the shy distance for the cyclists might be a little close. So, you know, we'll have some, I don't have like the precise measurements on this yet. That's going to come with the 90% plan. So we'll take that comment down and make sure that we're trying to balance, you know, both the needs of the people getting out of their vehicles and the, you know, experience the cyclist proceeding southbound.
Great. I'm gonna, Ms. Parker has been waiting for quite a while, so I'm gonna allow her to ask her question live. Ms. Parker, I'm hoping that you can unmute yourself and ask your question. Ms. Parker, are you still there? I know it's been a while. You've had your hand up for some time.
Hello, can you hear
Yes,
me?
yes, we can.
Okay, hi, yes. I'm in the 3200 block of Water Street. So when you put the bike lanes on Kenyon Street, you took away a whole street of parking, which makes it hard for, you know, to find a parking space now. So are you talking about going further up Kenyon? Are you going to do the same thing that you did on the, I guess, what is it? The north side of Kenyon Street? Are you going all the way up with a bike lane up to Georgia Avenue and across?
Well, yes, that is a great segue actually into the next thing I want to talk about. I want to show what we're considering for Kenyon.
So that means you're taking away more parking space?
It'll be easier if I can show those plans.
Yeah, let us. We'll get to
Because
that
it's kind
in
of
a minute.
hard
And then
to
you
see
can.
on the map.
Yeah,
That's why my question is kind of hard to see on the map because as I say, parking, you're fighting for parking space terribly in this area right now. So if you're taking away more parking space, it makes it hard. You know, people feel like now they don't want to go out because where are you going to park? You come home after a certain. So if it's going to be a one-way, if you would just, I don't know if this was ever in the agreement, it can be in the plan. Can it just be one way up where people still have that parking, where you can still park? Because when you take away parking space, when I say people fighting for parking space now, it is terrible.
All right, Ms. Parker, we're going to move on so that we can show you those plans, and then we'll have you back. So I'm going to take you down for now. And Ms. Sands, I'm going to unmute you because you also had your hand up for quite some time.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
All right, great. So apologies, I missed the very top of the call. But I also wanted to weigh in partly on the Kenyon plans and partly on the water bike lane. I'm just concerned that everyone is moving forward with a whole nother project in the neighborhood when during our last meeting, we raised several issues about the one block on Kenyon that was done. And no steps, as far as I can tell, have been taken to fix those issues that we were told would be looked at on the last meeting we had.
I'm going to also come back to this after we go through the Kenyon concept.
Okay.
It's going to be much easier to have this conversation when we've got all that in front of us.
All right. Well, again, and so Mr. Clark and Tatiana, you guys raised your hands, but I'm going to impress upon you that we're going to talk about Kenyon in a minute. So if your question is about Kenyon, you may want to hold it. But if it's not, then you can keep your hand up for now and we'll check in with you real quick. I'm going to start with Mr. Clark. Dr. Clark, can you unmute yourself? I think it's star, well, no, you're on the computer. Star 6 is the phone. Dr. Clark, are you still there? All right, I'm gonna move us on. Tatiana, I'm giving you a chance to unmute yourself. You can ask your question.
Hi, thank you. It's not a Kenyon question. It's actually a question regarding what's shown currently on the screen, the plans. So quick question, Aaron.
Yes.
The travel lane is going to be 11 feet. The parking lane, I assume it's going to be what, 10 feet?
Yeah, yes.
And then you have 3 feet for on the lower part of the page where a person can open their car door and come out to get to the crosswalk and the ADA ramp. And then I guess the bike lane is 5 feet.
Yes.
Correct?
Yes.
So I guess my question is, for you to safely get to the crosswalk, you're only giving 3 feet in between the car part, because you can't, ultimately the person, it's going to be tight for anyone to come out on the street side and really unsafe for someone to come out on the street side. So we would have to kind of, obviously the person who's on the passenger side is going to come out on the street side, but the driver's side, and you're going to try to get everything from your back seat out from the side where the bollards are. Is that enough space? And how is this ADA compliant? Like how would someone with a disability actually get to the crosswalk to get to the ADA ramp?
Well, so to answer your second question, this has been reviewed by our ADA office, and they do believe it is ADA compliant. In some ways, it's actually a little bit easier since there's not a curb to navigate. Was one thing they brought up. So in some cases, it actually is an easier.
So the assumption is that
disembarking.
Let's not speak over him, please.
Sorry,
Going,
the assumption is that we're going out.
Let him finish his answer to your question, please.
But all I was going to add to that was that I hear that the pedestrian aisle is perhaps more narrow than is comfortable, and that's, I think, a great piece of feedback for us. That's something that we're still thinking about. You'll notice that we don't have the spacing specified on this plan because we haven't nailed that down 100%. So that feedback is great for us to hear, and I'm going to make that note for the engineers to take a very close look at to make sure that we are accommodating everybody safely, people disembarking their vehicles and people using the cycle track.
Okay. Oh, well, sorry. Well, we're gonna move on to Kenyon because I know a lot of people are asking us to move on to Kenyon at this point. So let's handle that part of it, Aaron.
Okay. So I'm going to pull up those plans, which hopefully everybody can see now. So these plans, you're going to notice a few things here. So these are 30%. They're at the concept phase. There's going to be a lot less detail, which actually might make it a little easier to see what's going on. And once again, we've gone to north is at the top, south is at the bottom, east, west, left, and right. So it should be a little bit easier to read. We're going to start here at where Kenyon splits off of Irving. And I'm going to show you these plans as they proceed westbound to 11th Street. And once we've seen the whole thing, we'll go back, we'll rewind, and we'll do the Q&A and feedback for this. So the first change that we're proposing here, I want to draw your attention to the intersection of Park Place and Kenyon, actually to the east. There is, in the existing conditions, a combined straight and left turn lane. We are proposing to eliminate the straight ahead there and make that a left turn only lane. So there's a single lane then taking traffic onto Kenyon, feeding into the travel lane there, which on the 400 block becomes a right turn only lane for the entire, second half of the block as you approach Warder. So this design is intended to optimize the flow of cars through this area. We've been receiving feedback that there is congestion here, that there are cars queuing and standing, both on the 400 block and on the approach to the 400 block. So this design essentially removes parking in the roadway to maximize our ability to get cars sort of through this area and out of the way. This is a trade-off, and this is maybe not the right trade-off. We've already had some preliminary conversations about this, but this is a very early draft, so we want your feedback here, and if people are willing to deal with a little bit more of a congested block here, we might have some opportunities to put parking back in on this block, but it is a trade-off. So I just want to make sure that that's sort of clearly articulated. So we're going to keep moving down here. We reach Warder Street, and you can see our intersection treatment there. And then we proceed down Kenyon towards Georgia Avenue, moving westbound. So we are maintaining the resident permit parking on the south side of the street, and we are replacing the rush hour parking with the travel lane. So taking the temporary parking, which is on the north side of the street, removing that, replacing that with the travel lane. This is an 11-foot travel lane. You can see here, 7-foot parking lane, 3-foot buffer, and I believe a 6-foot two-way cycle track. We're pretty squeezed for space here. We don't really have room to do much else. But one thing I'm particularly happy with, we were aware that there is a ADA parking space on this block. We are maintaining that parking space in the exact same spot with the exact same level of ADA compliance, just, shifted a little bit further out. So I think that that's a pretty innovative design that we are proud of. There was some question at previous meetings about outreach to the resident who uses that parking space. We have not done that yet. We will do that. We wanted to make sure that this was the design we were going to move forward with before we do any direct outreach to folks. So if this is what we're going to go forward with, or something like this, what we're going to go forward with, we will be talking to that resident.
Aaron, I'm sorry, just one quick while you're on that one though.
Yes.
On street cleaning days, how will that work?
That is a great question. We have not gotten there yet. I don't know. Well, I'm going to have to get back to you.
All right. Go ahead. Sorry. I just wanted to,
that is a good question. I'm going to take a moment to jot that down, so I make sure to talk to DPW about that. Okay. And then here we reach Georgia Avenue. Got a dedicated left, a through right for car traffic. We get the bicycle traffic through the intersection with some striping through there. I think that the signal work here is going to be complicated, and we haven't gotten to that point yet. So there's probably some questions about this particular intersection, how we're going to time that left turn for the westbound Kenyon traffic. So we'll be coming back to that when we do further iterations of this design. And then, the same configuration proceeds down Kenyon towards 11th Street, or towards Sherman here, where for this block as well, it's eliminating the rush hour restricted parking, keeping the resident parking on the south side of the street with the two-way protected cycle track. And then that finally gets us across Sherman. You can see our first draft of the intersection treatment there. And proceeds all the way to 11th Street, where we move the bicycle traffic onto the 11th Street bike lanes. So I moved through that fairly quickly, but that is our concept. This is an early design. There's a lot of room for things to change based on people's feedback. So I'm going to back this to the 400 block of Kenyon, where I know we have some questions, so we can take a look at that. And let's open it up.
Sure. I'm going to start again with Ms. Sands now that she's had a chance to see the plans.
Hi, thank you for sharing all those plans. I'm a little confused about the Park and Kenyon intersection because it looks as if the cars coming straight ahead would then just hit where the cars are parked on the north side of the road. How do they, like, why not have the south lane be the one that goes straight ahead onto Kenyon?
I'm sorry. I'm afraid I'm not following the question. Can you restate it for me?
If you're driving from towards where the hospital is onto Kenyon and you're crossing over Park Place, you have the straightaway arrow on the north side of the road, but
Yes.
that if you go straight, you're just gonna hit a parked car in front of you.
So this design is proposing eliminating all of those parking spaces.
I don't think that's acceptable to the residents on this block to have no parking. In fact, I think we need more parking. It's been really difficult since this bike lane's been put in. So that's my thought on that. I thought we had talked last time about creating a merge so that cars would just merge into the one lane onto Kenyon.
Yeah, a number of things were discussed. This is what the engineering team gave me to get feedback on. So
Okay. Well, as a resident of the 400 block, my feedback is that getting rid of more parking is not the answer.
Thank you.
And then we also discussed, and I didn't hear in the plans, that the lights, the timing of the lights on Warder and Kenyon, when the bike light turns green, cars think that is the car light, and it causes like honking and stress every single day here. Where are we in the plans to fix that?
Well, so in terms of changing the dedicated cyclist signal, the signal team was not willing to do that because then it would create an even worse problem with bicyclists not knowing when to proceed.
Excuse me.
Oh, please go ahead.
What proposal do you all have to fix that problem? Because I've noted, like I mentioned last time, almost every time the light changes, cars almost hit into one another and then honk at each other because they look up and see the bike light turn green and it looks as if it's the car light turning green.
Yeah, I will talk to the signals team and see if they've got other ideas for dealing with that.
I don't know if the bike light could just be moved lower or something so that you don't, I mean, I drive on this block every day and I still look up and it looks like a car light turning.
Okay, I will take that.
You know, Aaron, for
Yes.
this particular, so for this particular intersection, and I know you and I have talked about this, I don't think that removing the parking from the 400 block is a good idea at all. I think that there's more that you can do to address that intersection so that cars could merge more smoothly onto Kenyon Street by looking at further back towards the hospital centers on Irving and seeing what measures you can include there.
Okay,
I think that would address the issues that, well, at least one of the issues that Geneva is talking about.
All right, I'm going to go to Erwin Diaz, as he has his hand up and didn't speak in the first round.
Yes, hi, thank you for showing the plans. Have you guys suggested, so I've seen this all over on 14th, I've seen this on Franklin around Catholic University, where they make the Kenyon, like if you're trying to make a bike lane, do a single lane going up. And I know I suggested that in the past, and they're saying like doing it on Irving, and Irving's going to have his own project of its own with their bus lane and everything. I've seen where it's been a bus lane and a bike lane shared combined. And so why has that option been thrown out there? So only one bike lane can go straight up Kenyon and one can go straight down Irving. and then connect maybe on Water to come across like they do on Franklin when they go through Catholic. They cut across the traffic with a light, so they can bike across and then catch it back up on Kenyon, since that's already done. Has that
Yeah,
ever
I think that's a great idea, and I brought that up as well. And what I was told was that the doing the combined bike and bus lane is less safe on Irving and Columbia
Georgia?
because they're freight corridors as well. So the engineering folks believe that this is the safest way to separate those different traffic modes. But I'm gonna press them on that, because I think that's a good thing for us to take a hard look at.
Okay, and then I also in this bike lane stops on 11th, correct?
Correct.
Okay, so it doesn't go into Columbia Heights at all. So it just stops. So what's the point of it if it doesn't really go all the way through?
It connects to the 11th Street bike lanes that run north-south. So it's a network connection. And then we're going to do a additional project in the future to continue it all the way to 14th Street and connect to that protected bike lane, which will, I think, pretty much complete the network piece there.
Got it. And but they, on Terry Tubman, they have that layout that you're talking about, the plants and stuff. So I don't know how they're gonna. That's why I was asking you, are they gonna do all the way through? Because then they're gonna have to take all that out, because that's already taking like some already parking spaces over there as well. So my concern really is, like, I don't like the idea that Kenyon, we're losing all that parking. Like, it's over 100 parking spaces, and everyone will tell you this, that we fight. Like 6:55, I'm getting in my car trying to get over and get a spot before 7 o'clock, because everyone's already thinking that. And I mean, after 7 o'clock, good luck, because by 7:01, everything's taken. So like I said, if you guys are gonna do this, there has to be some other alternative, but like parking 2 blocks away from your house or a block away from your house is not convenient for anybody who lives on Kenyon. So yeah, I'm just voicing that, and I hope it's taken serious, because yeah, we here on Kenyon, we understand like the congestion and everything here has gotten worse, and there's a lot of like this today, all these cars were parked and stayed there for like at least 2-3 minutes, not even moving. But there has to be another alternative where we don't lose our spots, because yeah, that's not convenient for anyone if we're losing that.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Diaz.
Thank you.
Yep.
Okay, I'm gonna go back to Tatiana, because I feel like I kind of cut her off there the first time, so sorry about that. Hold on. Tatiana?
Thank you. I appreciate that. I have several questions, Aaron, so I'm going to ask one by one.
Yes.
And not talk over you to not upset the commissioner.
Thank you.
Okay. Can you confirm? So let's start out. Do you have a number based on this design, at least up to 11th Street, of how many parking would be lost in Kenyon, including the parking you're currently showing to take up the 400 block of Kenyon?
So I don't have a precise number. I believe the 400 block in the current condition is 4 or 5 spaces that would be eliminated. And then, for the rest of the corridor, it would be preserving basically all of the resident parking on the south side and eliminating 100% of the rush hour parking on the north side. So I do not have the precise numbers on how many spots that actually is. But, if we advance this design, we would do that analysis to get a precise number for everybody, well before, we committed to doing anything.
I mean, parking counts. I understand that this has been in the works apparently for years and years and years, and parking counts from the 500 block to 14th Street, where this is supposed to be ultimately proposed, I don't think that's a big lift. So I would appreciate having that number. It should have been already in a traffic study if you guys have performed one, but it'd be good to hear that in the next presentation. My next question is, we brought this up in the last meeting we had with you in June with the street cleaning, and you did jot it down then too. And you said you'd come back with an answer for that. And not only that, but we also had the question that I believe Commissioner Brown brought up, that what exactly happens if another resident that requires an ADA parking moves in along any of these blocks on Kenyon, how do we implement a parking for an ADA resident into this design?
Great questions. Apologies for dropping the ball on the street sweeping. I guess I didn't jot it down as clearly as I should have, because I don't remember that part, but I'll get that to you as soon as I can. And then in terms of adding in new ADA spots, it might take a little restriping on our part, but I think if we can do it for the one spot, we can do it for other spots. So it's a little bit of a vague answer, but I'm going to consult with our ADA office and get more detail on that. But I believe if we can do it in one place, we can do it throughout the corridor.
Well, if the person lives on the other side of the street, the one where the travel lane would be, then they would have to still park, because currently the parking lane is being proposed kind of in the middle, right? You're going to have the bike lane on one side and the travel lane on the other. So if they live actually on the south side of Kenyon as being proposed, they would have to come out of the car with the wheelchair to be able to cross to the other curb. Is that correct?
I don't think so. It would be, essentially the same to get around the curb now. It is a few feet further from the curb, but they wouldn't have to cross the street, if I understand your question correctly.
Sorry, the other side. Well, then it would be, all the ADA parking would have to be basically along that parking lane, and the person would go on one side of the curb to the end of the intersection, cross a crosswalk to then get to their home.
Yeah, that's true. We wouldn't be able to do ADA spots on the north side of the street, though, because that's all rush hour restricted in the current condition. Yeah. So it's still the same in this plan, if I understand the question correctly.
Tatiana, can I take other questions, or do you still have something?
I just have one more question.
Okay, thank you.
How does this address the speeding issues along Kenyon? Having just one lane without the rush hour lane, basically bottlenecking it into one lane. Have you guys looked at that, as well as any traffic volume issues? Because right now we have, I imagine you know this, but we have a high capacity of cars coming down Kenyon. Do you guys have an idea of what this is going to do regarding a lag of cars, or reducing the speeding issue of cars when it's not rush hour?
Yeah, that's a great question. We believe that by going from 2 travel lanes to 1 travel lane during rush hour does reduce speeds and has a traffic calming effect. You are right that when it is off peak, it's essentially the same condition with 1 travel lane. Though it will be a narrower travel lane with this plan. It goes down to 11 feet. So we do expect a traffic calming effect during both peak and off-peak hours. So we do expect a safety improvement based on that. And then, oh gosh, I'm sorry, I'm blanking on what the second part of that question was.
The volume. So would it be basically, would you cause backup further away than we currently have now?
Yeah, this design, we believe, maintains an acceptable level of service. I don't have the traffic study analysis in front of me right now to go into, but we do believe that this is going to still facilitate an efficient movement of cars through the area.
Okay, thank you. I'm gonna move us on. Although it would, Aaron, is it ever possible to see this was a question that I'm answering live. Is it ever possible to see those actual studies?
I'll ask my boss. I don't see why not. They're extremely boring, but
I'm sure there's a lot of technical detail, but since we're giving everything, I'd love to be able to put that on the website.
Yeah, I'll see what I can do.
Okay, thank you. I'm going to move on to Garrett. Garrett, you should be able to unmute yourself and ask the question. Garrett, are you there?
Yes, good evening.
Hi.
Yes, I am. Hi, Garrett Hennigan. I work for the Washington Area Bicyclist Association, but I live over in Brookland, so I'm on Kenyon Street just about every day heading to and from work. So I know it very, very well. First off, thanks for putting in the effort to make these plans. I had a few small questions and maybe just some encouragement for the commission. I've been involved in the process of planning for this since it started with the 2014 Move DC plan, saying we need to look at this and figure out how to get bikes, buses, trucks, and traffic east-west. I was there for the crosstown study, which looked at that question in depth, which more or less, as you summarized, it identified that really the best way of doing this, and with very few options, is buses and trucks and cars on Irving and Columbia, and a east-west two-way low stress protected bike lane on Kenyon. So I do appreciate other residents, saying, are there other places this could go? And I think a lot of work has been put in to discover that, in fact, there are very few ways of getting this done, and Kenyon is the best. So with that said, I just want to say, I think the plan is good. We should obviously minimize as much parking loss as possible, which I can see you're doing. Questions, in the same way that the Warder and Park Place projects have turned into an opportunity for adding street trees, for focusing on traffic calming with curb extensions and improved crosswalks. Are there opportunities for that with this project? I know especially the last block of Kenyon before Georgia is a very long block. Even something like a mid-block crossing could help with the traffic calming problem. So are there opportunities for traffic calming with this project?
I can look into it, beyond the traffic calming effects that the project has sort of inherent to its design. Doing a mid-block crossing here, I don't know. We were really hoping to avoid doing any concrete work to keep this project sort of light and relatively quick. So any sort of additional add-ons do sort of slow things down, make them more expensive. But if there is a serious need or desire for a mid-block crossing here for other elements, we can take a look at it.
Okay, I guess maybe I would steer the attention from the mid-block crossing, which was just an idea, to at the very least looking at the intersections and seeing how we can narrow those down to make sure that while people are driving through the intersection, they're doing so as safely and slowly as possible.
Okay.
Thanks.
Thank you. Bailey, you should be able to unmute yourself.
Hello. Would you be able to go back to the one that goes from Park to Warder? I'm just trying to get my bearings on what I'm about to mention.
So we've got Park Place, unless you meant Park Road to Warder.
No, this is Park Place is what I meant. Yes. Okay, so the lower lane where not the right turn only lane, that is going to continue into being the top lane from Warder to Georgia. Am I correct? The northernmost lane. Am I correct on that assessment?
Run that past me one more time.
So the travel lane, it's on Kenyon. It will be the southernmost lane going through the intersection, not turning right, and then it will become the northernmost lane when it crosses Warder and heads towards Georgia.
Yes, that's absolutely right. Yeah.
So my question is, I first off, I love adding more bicycle infrastructure. I head down Kenyon all the time, and it would be really nice to have a protected area. So I do like a lot of parts of this. My one question is, do we need this long of a right-hand turn lane here? Because it doesn't seem to make it like to lose all of that parking for a right-hand turn lane when the Kenyon, the southernmost part isn't going to hit the bike lane. It doesn't seem to make sense to lose all that parking. And I don't have a car, so I have no stake in this game, but to lose all of that parking just for a right-hand turn lane that doesn't seem to be adding much, except for just being a very long, showy Guinness Book World Record long turn lane.
Yeah, I hear you, and I appreciate your altruism as a non-car haver. I think that really, optimizing the configuration of the 400 block to accommodate as much parking as we can while also keeping vehicles moving through it. That really does seem to be the $1 million question here. And I'm definitely hearing from this conversation that this first draft needs work. So we're definitely going to be taking a hard look at just how much of a right-hand turn lane do we need there. And that is not a question I'm equipped to answer here right now. Also, I'm not a traffic engineer, so I'm not credentialed to answer that question in any capacity. But that I appreciate the question and the comment, and we're going to be looking at that.
To follow up, is this a load, like, a freight corridor, like, no?
No, not a freight.
So this is
here.
only meant to be for like small car, like normal size cars?
Correct, yes.
Okay, well, wouldn't it, I just spitting, obviously not a traffic engineer, but wouldn't it make more sense to either make the lower, the southernmost lane between Park Place and Warder, the parking, or make the northernmost lane a parking, and then that actually has a traffic calming effect because it adds a slight curve? Then there's no ability for anyone to just buzz on through the intersection. They do have to slow down. So then they are going to at least be going down Kenyon at a lower speed than they would if it was just an open lane and guns a-blazing.
Yeah, that's an interesting idea. We'll take a look at that.
Thank you, Bailey. To answer a question that I see, when we make these changes for Kenyon, would it open the possibility for speed tables in any way?
Not as part of this project. So speed table, for anybody who doesn't know, would be taking an intersection and moving it literally up, like putting extra paving material to bring it to the grade of the sidewalk, so it's level with the sidewalk, so that when you're crossing the street, you don't step down. And it's basically turns the intersection into a giant speed bump, which we were not considering. That would not be within the scope of this project. That would it would be very disruptive. It would require a lot of, it would be very expensive. It would have the biggest impediment to speed tables, especially in this neighborhood, is not only would we have to rebuild the road, we would have to rebuild all of these stormwater grates and infrastructure and inlets in this area, because if we raise that area up, it creates like a dam, and you have water flowing downhill. It would hit that table and it would pool there. So we have to be very, very careful when we design those kind of raised facilities, because we do not want to start flooding every basement in the neighborhood. That would be very bad. So when we do raised crosswalks, speed tables, things of that nature, it takes a really long time to do the design work just to deal with the water runoff issues that they cause. So that's a very long way to say, like, no, sorry, but we were not,
okay.
Not gonna.
I'm gonna move us along. Aaron. Tim H, please. Tim, you should be able to unmute yourself. Tim, I'm hoping you're there. There you go.
I am here. Thank you. I just wanted to say briefly that I appreciate this proposal, and as someone who rides my bike along that to go to the crosstown lanes frequently, I don't live on that block, but I live in 1A, and my spouse bikes and our two kids ride their own bikes who are in elementary school, and we're desperate for safe places to ride and get around and just transport ourselves. We have been involved in crashes before, and it's had a major negative impact on our family. So I know this design is early on, and I know there's going to be changes to it, but what I would beg you is that you not make any changes that would reduce the safety of the project, and just keep that as the thing we really need most, and we're desperate for, at least from my perspective. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Tim.
Thank you. Yeah, safety is our number one priority here, so we'll be.
Yeah. Oh, no, to Leslie. I know Leslie's had her hand up for quite some time.
Hi there. Thank you for the presentation, Aaron. I just want to say, as somebody who lives like a block and a half from here, I'm really pleased to see increased bike infrastructure in the neighborhood. And as somebody who walks the neighborhood, I think that pedestrian safety is also paramount. I am a little concerned for this slide for making that safety paramount. The road rage at this intersection is already real, and we know that when people are acting in emotional moments, I think that can lead to increased violation of red lights, general politeness, and concern for other safety. I'm afraid that as this configuration is, the east side of the intersection, if somebody is accidentally in the left turn lane, for example, they're going to try to cut over. They might do it in the intersection. They might run the light to do that. So if there aren't flex posts or something separating those lanes, that's a concern. And then I feel like it's really bottlenecking pretty drastically, pretty sharply. I don't know. I just think that knowing human nature, there's going to be an Uber Eats driver parked there, and it's going to blow this intersection up. I think that technically this is probably the best that you could do, but I think that we need to kind of factor in more of the human nature and the observed behavior and really the reality of some of this situation. And so I think, the right turn lane onto Warder, I think either adjusting that, decreasing it, eliminating it, or making it a combined straight and right. I think that could be an option. But I think as it is right now, I'm almost concerned about this implementation because I think it would just make it a more unsafe intersection.
Thank you. I'm trying to get us through these, make sure we get back to people. Ms. Parker, did you still have you had your hand up? Did you have another question?
Yes, I was still just concerned about the parking on King, because as we still see everybody, because you say you don't have the data of how many spaces you're going to lose, but we're already hurting from the spaces that have been lost. So we couldn't just do like on Water Street where you have the one lane, the bike lane going up. We couldn't do that on Kenyon and then come down on Irving. Because
no,
that's a whole lot of parking spaces. And, for them to have gone up on the residential parking. And so, you're worried about the safety of the bike, but you're still not taking into consideration of the people that has to park. And if you've gone out to the grocery store, it's you got to park 3 blocks away from your home. You got to carry groceries and stuff. So you eliminating parking spaces just, that just can't be a good thing. And what happens like when the snow comes, then you have the snow emergency. Where are people supposed to go?
Okay. Well, is this a snow emergency route? I'm not.
Yes, it is. Kenyon Street is a snow emergency route. And Park Road is a snow emergency route.
Yeah, well, I think it's one side of the street is a snow emergency.
So, but it's the side that you're saying people are allowed to park on. It's the snow emergency route.
That might be that, Aaron. We'll make a note to look at that. Thank you, Ms. Parker. I'm going to go to Sandy. Sandy, you should be able to unmute yourself.
Hi, thank you for unmuting me. I've also been following this for years and participated in the first session where neighbors put Post-its on top of your graphics and had all of our opinions. And I think how crushed I was to see that a brand new line of 12 more parking spots was being placed in front of my house between me and the view of the Foxes and the old soldiers home, and that it was not going to be Park View anymore, but Parking View. So going beyond that, because I think I've tried to share this with you multiple times, I saw in the design that you're sharing that you're moving the crosswalk to the southern side of the Princeton Place intersection. Will that stay?
Let's take a look at that. I got to switch back over.
Okay.
So we want to look at Princeton.
Yes.
Where am
And
I?
while you do that, I wanted to
The northern
say,
end.
absolutely, here, Tim, safety is the most important thing, and I completely agree with that. And the issue with Uber Eats drivers parking any which place is a huge deal. At my intersection, it's not just the Uber Eats drivers. Honestly, it's also the curbside drug pickup and the curbside idling for drug use. Those things are huge issues already because there's always available parking on my block of Park Place. I think there's already always available parking. And if you look out the window, which I hadn't done very much until the pandemic, but now I don't do much else. So if you look out my window, you will always see curbside pickup of drugs and people idling for whatever reason. And I don't really understand the need for doubling that, but I promised myself I wouldn't say that same thing over and over again. But as far as the Uber Eats driver, the stripes you have on that bookend, the new line of parking and then the existing line of parking, is it possible to put bollards there so that those don't serve as Uber parker?
Yeah, no, absolutely. That's something we can do to keep those areas clear. So what we're talking about here, folks, is the areas on the approach to the crosswalk where it's illegal to park because if cars wind up there, you can't see pedestrians crossing until it's like too late.
Right.
So we keep those zones clear for safety reasons. And yes, we can put bollards there. We could put bike racks there. We could put any number of things that make that illegal parking activity more challenging to do.
Okay.
So we can take a look at that. And then, to the broader point of pickup, drop off, idling, package delivery, food delivery, we know those are bigger and bigger challenges for everyone. And they're challenges for DDOT as well. We don't have the enforcement authority. We rely on other agencies to enforce the traffic laws.
Right.
And we sometimes don't get the cooperation, the attention to that issue that we want. And it requires some tools that are not in the DDOT toolbox, but I absolutely hear you that is a real concern, especially in areas with these sort of spatial constraints.
And in areas, it's really too bad. I made some cynical joke about cutting a finger off one hand and then grafting it on the other hand, how it doesn't help either hand. One hand being the 400 block of Kenyon Street residents, and the other hand being this block that you're showing on the screen right now. We've always had ample parking, and more parking is a nuisance, is a huge nuisance. And the 4 speakers that have complained about the loss of parking, Denise, Miss Sands, other people, multiple people have complained about the loss of parking. They don't want to park 4 blocks away. They don't want to park 6 blocks away. For them, this block here where you plan on stuffing the most parking is way too far for them to walk with groceries. So I just to advocate again, we don't need this much parking. This will bring trouble. And I understand your interest in net gain. And that was my next question. A net gain, is that really in the vision of DDOT in the long term, a net gain of parking in the neighborhood? I can understand how it sounds great to answer the complaints of those who are losing parking on their block, that overall there's a net gain, but it doesn't actually address their problem. It creates more, and I don't understand how it addresses the long-term infrastructure interests of the city to have a net gain in parking in a neighborhood that is so close to Metro.
Yeah, I hear you. We just do our best to balance all the various uses of the road and public space. It's really challenging that we take the same piece of infrastructure, the street, and we use it both to move vehicles and we use it to store vehicles. And I wish that was not the paradigm in this country. It's not the paradigm in other places. But that is what we have to deal with and what we have to try and manage. So, we're trying our best to get it right here.
Right, but this is not Los Angeles. I mean, we're not just a big uniform country. This city has public transit, and it's going to be having more bike lanes. And I don't think we need to be fatalistic about this is the culture of our country, because we're talking about a vision and we're talking about the future, not adhering to some strange idea of how we should remain car-centric and be even more car-centric. Adding parking spaces. Sorry to remain on that point. Let me scroll through my other questions. You've addressed considering bicycle parking in lieu of car parking, except you were talking about placing it on the buffer zones where I was worried that would become de facto parking as well. That would be great because there's this is something I don't complain about because I appreciate the principle of, but it is also a nuisance to see so many bikes laying around, including in tree boxes. If you plant flowers, you have bikes on them. And also you have to walk over them because they're in the middle of the road, in the middle of the sidewalk. For those of us who do have a sidewalk on Park Place, because I know that there's Park Place residents who don't. So that would be something that would be great to consider. And will you be able to remove snow and leaves from those bike lanes that are so narrow?
Yes, we will be able to do that. That is something that our partners at the Department of Public Works, separate agency, they do that work by hand, and they're very responsive to 311 requests. And they even bought us some cool like mini snow plows so that we can snow plow the bike lanes now. They trained me on how to drive them. So like you might see me out there plowing the snow out of these things someday. I did it last winter. It was a lot of fun. So.
Okay, because those lanes are going to be narrow than what's along the reservoir, aren't they?
No, it should be the same as around the reservoir.
Well, you only have one now. You'll only have one as opposed to two. So that's
right. But the width of the lane should be.
Yeah.
Oh,
right.
but the overall bike infrastructure, the width of the overall bike infrastructure, which is what we take into account for whether the snow removal will fit, will be then half the size. Because I remember DDOT telling me, no, we cannot put bollards along the reservoir at the time when I biked down that. There was a bike lane, but no physical protection. And you were saying, we can't put bollards because we need snow removal. We need to let the machines go through for snow removal. That was the reason why 9 years ago, 8 years ago, I don't know how many years ago, no, longer than that, 10 years ago, I couldn't get a protected bike lane on the part that had already a bike lane. And so now you're offering me half as wide a lane. That's why I was concerned about snow removal and leaves removal.
Thank you. And we have two more hands that I'm going to hit, but I did want to follow up. There was a question about, and you can try to keep this short, level of service. You had mentioned an acceptable level of service. Can you give a little detail on that?
I can give a little detail on that. So level of service is the term that traffic engineers use to describe the flow of traffic through a given area, and they grade it like your report card in middle school. So you've got, level of service A down through F. So what we try to do is maintain a certain, level of service to prevent congestion and cars from being sort of backed up. And sitting in intersections and on streets. So that's the very quick version of it. It's a pretty complicated thing to calculate, but that's the very quick overview.
Okay.
So when we do any project like this, we're trying to maintain a certain level of service so that we don't increase congestion throughout the city, because it has a sort of a ripple effect.
And we're going to make this our last two questions. Ms. Sands, I'm allowing you to talk.
Thank you. I just have a few follow-ups. I'll try to keep it quick. The first is that on Kenyon, somebody put up a sign that says no parking in either direction in the middle of the block, pointing in both directions, contradicting all the other signs that are there. I'm not sure where that came from, but if I was hoping somebody could come take a look at that.
I will go take a look at that myself.
Okay.
And that's in the 400 block in the middle of the block?
Kind of in the middle, yeah.
Okay,
And
I'll take a look at that.
yeah. And then my other question was, you keep talking about the traffic calming, that this block was supposed to be the create traffic calming, but the block here has gotten more aggressive since the bike lane was put in. There's more honking, there's more congestion. So I'm not sure if there was something else that was supposed to be done to calm down traffic, or what exactly that means.
Yeah, no, I mean, it's certainly still a work in progress, you know, and that's why we were proposing the changes in these plans. You know, the engineers really do believe that the way to mitigate the honking, the congestion, is to eliminate all the parking on that block. But that also creates other problems, you know, as we've been discussing this evening. You know, that might not be the right way to solve the problem. So we're going to have to go back and think about the best way to do that, where we can sort of balance both of those needs.
And then just lastly, an overall point. I appreciate that this is the best block to have put this bike lane on, but it just feels like the only people who aren't getting any benefit out of this are the people who actually live on this block. I mean, we've gotten more honking, less parking, and also, unlike the Warder project, we didn't get any tree development or any other beautification project to go along with this, which I don't really understand why that wasn't kind of a part of it as well. I mean, our block actually has, I think, some of the least trees in the entire neighborhood. I don't know if that'd be possible here, but it just feels like the bike lane was put in and no effort was put into helping make this block more accessible and enjoyable for the neighborhood.
I think that is a good point, that the 400 block is still not quite where it needs to be. So we will keep pushing on that as well. I know Commissioner Brown has made that a big point throughout a lot of this discussion. So
thank you.
Sure.
Yeah, I'll see what we can do about that.
And then final, Mr. Diaz, you had one more question.
Yes, I did. So, I mean, we're all saying, like, you know, we're losing parking and everything, but what is the solution for the parking for the people that potentially could lose parking on Kenyon?
Well, thank you for the question. You know, so our hope is to really maintain the resident parking as much as possible. And our proposal is to only take out the rush hour parking. And our hope was, you know, we're prioritizing the residents, and really the impact would only be to people who are visiting and parking, you know, going to businesses around the neighborhood and so on. So we are trying to maintain as much of that parking for the residents as we possibly can. But, you know, we have a very finite amount of space to work in. So it does tend to be sort of a zero-sum game in terms of making these trade-offs.
Let me jump in. You know, one other suggestion then is, I know resident parking sometimes can be extended later into the night. That might also be another way to make sure that residents have the first crack at these spaces. So, you know, I think maybe right now it might be 8:30, if that could be extended to 10:30 or even midnight. I've seen people do that, because I walk through this area too. A lot of people from the hospital center park on these blocks, and I think the more that we can get the hospital center people to park at the hospital, make sure that this community has the spaces that they need.
Yeah, so Commissioner Ray, I'm glad that you brought that up. That's something we can definitely look at in terms of changing the type of parking, the enforcement of the parking. That's something we can absolutely look at. And that might actually be a solution here to make sure that we are, you know, keeping as much of this parking resident only as we possibly can. So that's something we should definitely be taking a look at.
Yeah, and Aaron, like I said, I appreciate this. I also am a biker, but I also have a car. But I do like the idea. It's just that when, you know, the parking situation, that, like, you know, obviously that's the biggest thing. But like I said, I do like the idea. It just, like I said, probably needs a little bit more work and maybe more outreach to the community for more ideas, because I think, like Stan said before, the person before me says, like, the only people that get affected are the people that live in the area. All the people that have said is beautiful, is great, don't live on that block. So, and I live on that block, and I'm a biker. And like I said, I appreciate it, but also, like, the sacrifice is tremendous for people who have cars and have equipment or groceries and all that kind of stuff after they work. That needs to be considered. So thank you. I appreciate it. And yeah.
No, thank you. I appreciate your comment and your engagement on this, and don't worry, you're going to be seeing more of me.
I did want to point out, and Aaron, I don't know if you followed along, but we did do a poll in the middle. So if those that didn't look, so for the first question on the overall impression on Park Place design, we got a 66% favorable to a 21% opposed. On the addition of the street trees, we're at 86%. So that is coming across well. The Park Road design was a 66% in support. So that seems to be doing pretty well. Obviously, Kenyon is a lot closer in terms of support versus opposition, and I think there is still some work to do. And as we said, maybe changing the way that enforcement is being done would help to make sure that the spaces that are available are going to our residents. And I got to say, these last two are really, I shouldn't say they're shocking, but they're not happy making. Is that 76% of people feel that this the car speeds going through our neighborhood are too fast, and almost 70% of people have been involved in a collision within our neighborhood. So these are this is why we're trying to affect a change. So I appreciate your being here tonight, Aaron. I don't know, Commissioner Bass and Commissioner Brown, do you have any closing statement?
Well, I don't know about a closing statement other than I too am grateful for everyone who showed up tonight, not just to look at the plans, but to provide great feedback. I think there's a lot of observations and questions that came up tonight that will make this better, and in some cases caught things that were missed, and that's exactly why we're here.
And I think that Aaron shared the plans that were pretty baked, which is Water Street, still working on Kenyon, Park Place. I was pretty pleased with the plans there. I know we talked a lot about trying to create a balance, especially around parking. So I appreciate the conceptual designs that included the additional parking, as well as the bike lane connections and your coordination with the Vision Zero team. This is just the start. These are ongoing conversations that we've been having with DDOT on these conceptual designs. So Aaron, I really appreciate your time and engagement and working with the engineering team to put together these concepts. I just want to ask the community just to please stay engaged in this process. Continue to get updates from the ANC. We want to hear your feedback. We value it, and we've been pushing DDOT also on outreach. So like I said, this is the start of this. These are draft designs that we're seeing, and we just appreciate everybody for participating today.
And I'll just say thank you again. I'm hopeful that the Q&A is going to get saved so that I can try to forward this to you later, Aaron, but I'm not making any promises on that.
Yeah, I would love to see the Q&A. I would love to see the poll results. Anything you can send to me would be great.
Okay, thank you very much. Good night, everyone.
All right. Good night. Thanks, everyone.